Hello everyone, welcome to another Flesh and Blood video. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to be as boring as possible in the Blitz format. To do this, we need to play Yoji Royal Protector, the Guardian young hero released in Dynasty. Now, for anyone who has played Fatigue before, you would know that Oldhim is not in the Blitz format anymore since he is Living Legend. So we only have three other options for Guardian: Yoji, Valda, and Bravo. If you're going to Fatigue, Bravo isn't the best. Valda is fine with 21 health, but Yoji has 22 health, which makes him the perfect hero for fatiguing your opponent. So, with that said, let's start with the equipment. Starting, let's look at our weapon and offhand. The only weapon that we can play with a shield is Titan's Fist. Just a pretty basic weapon. This is how you'll kill people. Sometimes, depending on what they're doing, you can use it to pressure someone who isn't threatening as much damage. But it's not really your main win con. It's really only here so we can play a shield. That would be the Steel Braid Buckler, just a 2 health shield with Temper. We're not playing the Rampart of Ram's Head, mainly because that's way better with Chrono Seeds, which we don't have access to, and our 2 defense reactions that do cost resources, Unmovable and Staunch Response, can be paid for with an even amount of resources. Yes, we can play Staunch for just 2, but generally we'll be using it to block a bigger attack for 6. Our helmet is the Crown of Providence. This is a pretty basic helmet. I'm sure everyone knows what it does. It's just here because it blocks 2. It can help cycle out something else. Our chest piece is Tech Plating. It's another thing that gives us 3 extra health. Sometimes the surge matters, but we generally don't really care about it. Crater Fist, very similar. We don't really care about the active, it's just extra health. And Iron Rot legs, because we're playing Guardian. What other legs are we going to play? Looking at our other equipment, we just have 5 pieces of Arcane Barrier, the whole suite, and the Lantern. Guardian has no innate Arcane Barrier. We're playing a one-handed weapon, so we can play the Arcane Lantern. This is in case we play against Wizard, who we can't block because Wizard Arcane damage, and we bring in some against Runeblade, generally going to be the boots. Probably nothing else against Runeblade. It depends on what a Runeblade opponent is trying to do, but generally we don't need all of it, but some of it is very good. Next, let's take a look at the main deck list. This is 2 red Blessing of Patience, 2 Command and Conquer, 1 red and 2 blue Drone of Brutality, 2 red Fate Foreseen, 2 red Healing Balm, 2 red Sigil of Solace, 2 red Sink Below, 2 Spinal Crush, 1 Unmovable, 2 blue Buckling Blow, 2 blue Chokeslam, 2 blue Cranial Crush, 2 blue Debilitate, 2 blue Disable, 2 Imposing Visage, 2 blue Macho Grande, 2 Nerves of Steel, 2 blue Staunch Response, 2 Tear Asunder, and 2 blue Thunderquake. Looking more in depth into this deck list, you can see that we really get enabled because for some reason they decided to unban Drone of Brutality in Blitz. Drone of Brutality is a 2-cost generic attack that has 2 block. The red has 6 base, the blue has 4. But it just says when it's put into your graveyard from anywhere, you put it on the bottom of your deck instead. Now, yes, we're playing a 2-block in a fatigue deck. That doesn't matter because now you will always be able to win a game no matter what situation you're in, because these 3 cards, this 1 red and the 2 blue, will always be in your deck. You're playing against ninja threatening double Kodachis. Oh, well, I guess I just block with 2 drones and then pitch the last one to my hammer. Your opponent is threatening their own drone of brutality. Well, I guess I will just block with all 3 drones, and then this game goes on forever. This card just makes games last an infinite amount of time, or let you always win if you fatigue them, and it shouldn't be in the format. So, I don't know why they unbanned it, but it's here. It's why the deck works. Other than that, we are playing a card you don't really see in Constructed, and that is Nerves of Steel. This card pretty much makes it so that our Battle-Worn and Temper equipment that blocks something with 2 or less base power don't lose a counter. It also removes a counter from our chest piece when it enters play, and whenever our hero takes damage, it gets destroyed, but it's perfectly fine because we're going to be playing as defensive as possible, keeping the Nerves of Steel up, using it to block some pretty small attacks. Mainly, this is going to be used with 3 of our equipment. Our Tectonic Plating, which is battle worn, and also gets a counter removed from it when the Nerves enters. Our Steel Braid Buckler, and our Crater Fist, which both have Temper and 2 block. We can pretty much, against any go wide deck, as long as they're arrows or whatever attack, arrows, Kodachis, sword swings, whatever, small enough, we can just block for free. This card mainly lets you beat Benji, but is also really good into things like Kasai, into other ninjas, Katsu, some Phais, because there are just times where you'll be able to block something with an equipment and just keep the value going of every turn you get extra health because your equipment aren't losing counters. And like I said, this is mainly here to beat Benji because Benji is really good into these fatigue type decks since it's hard for us to block everything. But with this, we get 3 free blocks a turn. We get our Crater Fist, our Steel Braid Buckler, and our Tech Plating every turn. Plus, we might have a D-React. We can always block the weapons from our hand since Benji doesn't affect them. So, we'll definitely have time against... This card just lets us buy time against Benji to play our attacks because in some matchups like Benji, we will just need to actually play our attacks. To guarantee we can get the Nerves of Steel in play, we are playing 2 Imposing Visage. This is just a tutor for any aura. You see this if you play Bravo. It's there to get your showtime. Sometimes a Stamp Authority. This card is just really good. But because sometimes you have this, you don't need a Nerves of Steel, we are playing Blessing of Patience, since another way we win is just by gaining so much health our opponent runs out of cards that can kill us. Blessing of Patience is a 1-cost aura that says at the start of the turn, destroy it and gain 3 health. Target hero gains 3 health. I guess you could give it to your opponent, but you would never do that. So if we have a blue, the Imposing, and like a red, we can play it, get this. Or if we want to make a Surge with our Tech Plating, or we have a CNC to play as well, we can do that and be a little flexible. But the Imposing Visage and the Blessings definitely stay because they're here with the Nerves of Steel for our main package. Looking at our other healing, since we just talked about the Blessing of Patience, we have Healing Balm and Sigil of Solace. It's just more healing. Sigil, yes, it doesn't block, but it kind of blocks. It just gives you 3 health. And Healing Balm gives you 3 health. We're not caring about attacking. It's 2 block, which sucks, but you're going to be trying to play it instead of really blocking with it. So this is just an extra 12 health in our deck that our opponent's going to have to chew through. Finishing up with our red attacks and our defense reactions, Command and Conquer is the big card. You don't need it at all. You could play anything else that has 3 block. You could play another blue that has 3 block. You could play, I don't know, another 2 for 6 that has 3 block. It doesn't matter. CNC is the best thing in this slot, but you don't need CNCs. Spinal Crush is just This is the main card that's going to help us against Benji if we can ever get a turn where we can Spinal Crush them by like setting up with our Nerves of Steel, get a turn where we have a pretty big hand, Spinal Crush them. They either spend their whole hand, we take tempo, or they don't spend their whole hand and they can only play one thing at us, and then we get to play cards each turn. That's about what you want to do with the Spinal Crush, but it's just here because it's the best red Guardian attack that we can play. Our defense reacts. Fate Foreseen, Sink Below, pretty standard. The one red unmovable is here for an extra big D-React. The Staunch Response is a little better, but sometimes you don't want to pay 6 for a block 8. The unmovable, if it's in your arsenal, you can pay 3 for a block 8, so the 1 is good. And since we're on the 1 red Drone of Brutality, it does fit in pretty well. Looking at our blues, our other non-attack blues, we only have one non-attack blue, and that is Tear Asunder. Super good card. 3 cost, your next Guardian attack, it's +1 Dominate, and if it hits, they discard 2 cards. Doing this early can help us get rid of our opponent's cards, which helps us fatigue them. Even late, this can be here to rip key cards out of our opponent's hand. This can finish off our opponent if we're chipping them down with the Titan's Fist. This can do a lot, but remember, it's here to block. It has 3 block. Don't care if you're blocking with it. It's not as important as saving your own health because we're just trying to get to the late game, since we're always going to win the late game because of the Drone of Brutalities. Our other attacks, they really don't matter. Play whatever blue Guardian attacks you want. These are the ones that I think are the best, so let's just run through them real quick. Buckling Blow puts a -1 counter on equipment if we get a crush. It's okay, it's useful sometimes, but not really. If we're going late, it doesn't matter all that much. Chokeslam is actually pretty good since it stops our opponent's attack actions from gaining power. This is good into things like a Snapshot Lexi, into something like a Phi. It stops their attack from going bigger, lets us really easily block them. Cranial Crush generally doesn't matter currently. There aren't too many decks drawing a ton of cards. Obviously, I just mentioned, a few that do tend to draw cards. But yeah, shutting off an Art of War, shutting off whatever effect, maybe a Ranger's Death Dealer, is good. This is the biggest attack, other than the Spinal Crush. This is the biggest blue attack in the game, in our deck. I guess it's tied for the biggest blue attack in our deck. There are a few others that are 8, but it's just here because it's 3 block and blue. Debilitate makes their next attack weaker. It's alright. Disable, it's like an extra CNC. It puts it on the bottom instead of destroying it. So they are getting another card in their deck, but it still gets rid of their arsenal. Macho Grande is just a big attack with Dominate. That's it. It can help kill our opponent. And the last attack in the deck, Thunderquake, is just here. Sometimes we heave it if we want to play something next turn. We can always put it on the bottom with Crown to redraw. After we do that, it's just 3 block and a blue. And then, I didn't talk about it with these, but the 2 blue drones are here because we want more blues than the red. Since if we have to block with 2 of them each turn, we want to block with the red and one of the blues so we can swing with our Titan's Fist. If we only have to block with 1, we can block with the 1 blue. If we have to block with all 3, that sucks, but then it doesn't matter what colors they are. Just, we want the 2 blue, and then we're playing the 1 red in case we need to start swinging with the Drone of Brutality. That's going to be it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. Next week, we're going to be taking a look at a pretty fun deck. I have a Data Doll deck prepared, literally the opposite of Yoji, and a self-mill deck. So, hopefully this video didn't bore you enough that you won't come back next week for the Data Doll deck list. But with that said, I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.